I am really excited to be talking to Yuri. I want to say Pukhkalo. We're going to pronounce that properly once he gets on. And he is a business development manager from PrimeLeague Intermodal Logistics. We're going to be talking all about what it takes to move your stuff from Canada to your new home of destination. All right, let's go and check it out. I'm so excited. I'm talking today with Yuri and Pukhkalo, I think.
Yeah, that's
Did I
right.
say, oh, my last name is not easy to pronounce either. I'm really excited because there's been a lot of questions about how do I move my stuff that I've accumulated after I've downsized and everything, and I still have like I want to take my car over, and I'm moving from Canada to Spain or to Italy or to Romania or wherever it is. How do I do that? Like that's another question that a lot of you have had, and Yuri is an expert in this. So we're going to get to know Yuri a lot. We're going to ask him some questions, and he's going to tell us what it takes to move your stuff from Canada to another part of the world. So, Yuri, welcome aboard. Welcome to our channel.
Oh, hi, Serge. Thank you for inviting. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to explain the whole shipping process because we've been doing this for now 12 years since we arrived in Canada. I'm of Ukrainian background. Myself and my family, we moved to Canada 12 years ago. I've been in logistics business now for 20 years, and back in Ukraine, we mostly were dealing with inland transportation. And when we arrived in Canada, we knew we wanted to, update our skills. So we went into the international ocean and air freight market. So in 2013, we moved to Canada. Then we established our company, PrimeLeague. First, we focused on shipping commercial goods between North America and Europe, both ways,
Okay.
import and export. And in 2000, I would say starting 2015, and it's a family-run business. So me and my wife, we are running this business together since the beginning. I'm more on business development side of the business and sales, and my wife, she's running the whole operation.
Of course, right? I mean, there's always going to be someone that's making the sales and the other one that's shaking the hands, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Awesome.
And we were able to build this special bond that we spend hours at the same office space, and it works well for us.
That's
We
great.
never have any bad experience in terms of dealing with, because very often in companies you see sales and operations department is always a conflict, or very often conflict, because sales department just sell, and operation they have to deal with that. So that's not the case in our case, in our company. Anyway, so starting 2015, our company became a part of worldwide well-known logistics platform, and we had a chance to deal and cover all sales leads for entire North America. And that's when we started getting sales leads from private individuals just moving overseas, and that's when we decided, okay, let's learn how to efficiently move families. And we're not talking about only Europe. So we were moving families all over the world, like you name it, Australia, Solomon Islands. And it was a really great experience because myself, I like to deal either with companies when we ship commercial goods, when I talk to the owner, when I know him, when we develop relationships. Like as of today, out of 100 accounts, none of our customers are huge companies, just because at one point we decided we don't want to deal with them. There's nobody to talk to. It's not the business we would like to do. We don't like to ship 100 containers a week. Like I'd prefer shipping 5, 10 containers a month for the same customer, but we talk, we discuss it, something that I prefer and like to do.
Hmm.
So we learn how to efficiently move families out of US, out of Canada, and the other way around. and I liked it. I liked it. I found the ways how to do it efficiently. Very often, people they don't realize when they decide to move that shipping your stuff can get very expensive, right?
Mm.
And very often we get those sales leads, let's say from Miami. I'm moving out. I have a 3 bedroom townhouse. How much is gonna cost? Well, I make sure I talk to this person. We go through every single step. I make sure I explain to this person what it takes and what needs to be done. And normally I would offer 3 options. The option number one would be the least expensive one, which of course would assume some involvement of the person of the or the family in the
Hmm.
whole moving, shipping, packaging process. And the last one would be an option where the customer, I don't want to deal with nothing.
Yeah.
You send your people, they pack everything up, they load the container, and we want to receive our stuff at destination just the same way. We also offer this option, although less than 5, I just briefly run the numbers because I always assign the status or complexity of the shipment in our system, in our CRM, and I see less than 5% of families moving overseas, they go with the most expensive options. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. Some very wealthy people, we moved as of today over 1,000 families from
Wow.
Canada and USA.
Okay. And that's to other, so when you're talking about the Miami one, the example, is it moving from Miami to Canada or to another place? Doesn't matter. Doesn't really matter, right?
It doesn't matter. Yes, it doesn't matter. If we're talking about moving from US to Canada, different processes involved, different means of transportation. But
Gotcha.
if we're talking about overseas, most of the time the process is very similar,
And
except
do you do,
for
sorry.
except for the arrangements at destination when the container arrives. Some countries they have different customs regulations, but I'll explain that later.
Okay.
Here we go.
Just before we move on, I want, because I'm curious, because we do have clients that are snowbirds, right? And all of a sudden they've want to sell their properties. So do you do that as well? I guess that would be ground transportation rather than ocean.
We've done it, but that no, it's not. Most of the time, they would want to ship their cars,
Okay.
their vehicles, right? And again,
Okay.
this is not the logistic we're involved with because they
Okay.
normally deal with it directly with the one transport inland transportation trucking company, and they do this transportation for them. What we do is we call ourselves freight forwarders, right? We're not movers, and I would like to emphasize that moving companies and what we do is 2 different companies. Moving
Okay.
companies normally they would, come pack your stuff and deliver locally or within Canada. So what we do is normally we have like 5 to 10 steps or processes involved in order to get your stuff moved, like dealing with customs at origin and destinations, paying all the port charges, origin destination, booking ocean freight. So we put all these pieces together and we make all this happen.
That sounds really incredible and like a project management nightmare for someone who doesn't know what they're doing to put all these pieces together. So let me
It
go
is.
back a little bit. I want to clarify before we move on. So you started off with doing for businesses import export, and that was in 2015 when you started. Is that
Well,
right?
around 2015, when we started getting first experiences moving
People.
household goods for people.
Okay. And now you've
Mhm.
branched off into moving up to 1,000 people around the world. Are you
That's
still
right.
doing both, or are you now focused only on what on the moving of the people?
I would say most of our business is doing commercial. I would say
Okay.
around 60%. Then we ship a lot of humanitarian aid to dealing with governments in Canada and US.
Okay.
And I would say around 15 to 20 business of the whole volume we're doing is shipping families. I mean, you
Wow.
can't compare shipping commercial goods amount of business coming as opposed to families. There are lots of families moving, but I
Yeah.
would say we still deal with a lot of
Yeah.
household
Well,
goods moves.
that gives a lot of, I mean, you've got a lot of experience, then you've got the businesses, you got government, and you got families. That's great. Well, good. Well, let's move on then and talk about, well, uh, how, how does it work? I guess maybe what's the first step? How do people find you and decide what the next steps are?
Well, normally we would get an email. So the
Hmm.
person who decides to move overseas, they would send, 4 to 5 different same emails to different companies, just, to get a hold of somebody and get some sort of information. Most of the time, people have no idea, what's going to be involved, what's going to
No.
be the cost. So their question would be, their email would be something we would not be able to answer right away. So what I do in this case, I don't give any numbers. They will not be accurate. And one of the things I value, what we do is, we provide you a quote and we stick to the number, right? So based on my experience, I can predict every step because in the shipping process, international shipping process, um, if we have some obstacles or some issues, it will always translate into extra expenses. We don't want to do that. And sometimes if you do something wrong, because you're always it's everything's very time sensitive. We pick up container, we only get it for like 4 days. We have to ingate it, deliver to container yard within certain time frame. If we don't do that, we're gonna pay the detention demurrage. So again, based on my experience, I reach out to the client and I explain step by step what needs to be done, and I offer them what what do you want to do? Want to go the least expensive way? And most of the time they say, yeah, let's consider this one. So, and I explain. So the way it works is we place the booking with the steamship line. We pick the date, first of all. And let's say we want to sail on this vessel. We secure the spot on this vessel. Um, then having this they call it cutoff for container delivery. I explained that we have 5 days to pick up empty container and deliver to your residential address. Then you're gonna have this container sitting at your driveway for a couple of hours. We cannot leave container overnight most of the time because local regulations, they do not allow. These containers are not like garbage containers, and
Hmm.
they cannot be put on the ground. They always stay on the chassis, so 48 inches off the ground.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
the moment container arrives, everything has to be ready to go. And most of the time, the family who's moving overseas, they will have neighbors or other family members just helping out. And I would say 4 or 5 people is more than enough to get the 3 bedrooms house worth of stuff loaded into 40-foot container. So 40-foot container is the biggest
I was gonna
option.
say, is this container just for the household items and the car would go in something else if they're also thinking about the car?
Well, it depends. If
Like,
normally,
I'm just thinking if I'm a fa I mean, I'm pretty good at packing stuff up, but how do I make sure that something valuable is not going to be damaged, like my car in a container, put a
exactly.
mattress on one side and the couch on the other. Like I'm sure that there's probably this is where you guys come in and say, we can do this for you the professional way for this extra cost, right?
Yeah, and that would be something we would definitely offer.
Yeah,
But again, at first, we normally would start and people, they're trying to save.
gotcha.
I'm not trying to push people, towards this
You're
option.
giving them the options. You give
This
them
is
the
based on our
like an
experience and amount of families, what normally happens.
yeah.
People would like to save because international shipping is not cheap. It is
So
expensive.
I need to ask this question because um if like you say, I mean, I'm sure people just reach out, I'm thinking of moving, I need help, what can I do? Once they've made that initial question, you know, when you go to a lawyer for a will, I know this, a good lawyer will kind of guide them to think about what they should be doing with their will. Do you
Mhm.
guide them to say what they should be taking and just call me when you're ready kind of thing? Or you just say, hey, let's book a date, you figure it out, put it in the container and off we go. Like there's some things they don't have to take, right? Like how do you
You know
handle
what?
those questions?
Serge, that's a good question. Very often, because again, I talk to every single family. They share their stories. Then they call me when they already moved and they share their stories again. very often I can make a good call or judgment what you should take or not, but I would not do that. I mean,
Yeah.
very often these things they have a sentimental value to people.
Emotional.
Like
Yeah.
sometimes, and I always have to go through the itemized list of goods just to make sure there's nothing which is not allowed on the board on the in the container. So, but I would never say, hey, you know what, you might reconsider. It's it's very
Yeah. No, I understand.
sentiment, right?
I wonder if this falls more into my category where, I mean, all this costs money, you just said, right? But not only that, if you take their whole house, you're going to need a whole house there, or you're going to need something there. So normally what we do when we do the financial planning for clients is we're like, well, what are your costs? And okay, it's going to cost me this to ship, but it's going to cost me this to buy this size house so I can put my stuff back in it again. So if they find, well, I can't afford that size house, then maybe we have less things moved over. I don't know.
No, no. My task is to ship it in the in and to make this experience for the client something they would never regret. I can
Yeah,
tell it. This can get very frustrated. You can't
yeah,
even imagine. I had a few times I had a phone call from clients. They're saying, you know what, we shipped our stuff and our containers arriving, but this is what we're facing. Those are the issues we're dealing with. Can you help us? And I don't want to be negative, but it can get really ugly, especially when you cannot get your container out of port
yeah,
because it is consigned to the agent of the company who shipped it from overseas, and you do not have legal access to your container. And you
yeah,
can't do anything unless, they ask you have to pay extra for this and that. And I mean, it can get really bad.
yeah,
So my goal is to make this experience the best. So people are already stressed. They're going through a big change in their life. You don't want to be thinking about, what's going to happen with my container and all the, valuable stuff I had for my for my entire life. So, and also the other things that we care is, the stuff delivered in a same condition you basically loaded it inside the container.
yeah,
So when you ask, do we provide? Yes. So what I would guide people step by step, saying, what very often I get asked, how do we load this stuff if they decide to load by themselves? And again, this is not a rare opportunity. Most of the case, they want to load their stuff. It's not like we don't offer. They specifically want nobody touching their stuff.
yeah.
The good option with a container is you're the person loading it inside the container. It gets sealed, and then you open the container. So nobody has access except for customs if they decide to go through your stuff for whatever reasons, but that
Okay.
almost never happens.
So you seal it on their driveway when they're done. You close the
Exactly.
doors, you put something,
Yep.
scotch tape or something more
No, 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 no.
sensitive.
It's a bolted seal, huge seal with a number,
Okay.
and that number gets documented on the bill of lading.
Gotcha. So you basically you're saying, look, we're picking it up, it's sealed. Whatever you put in there, however you put it, that's how it's going to stay. Nobody's taking it out. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And then they ask, well, how do we load this stuff? Well, I will always suggest, well, imagine playing with Lego.
Mm,
It's just a common sense. Heavy stuff goes at the bottom, lighter
yeah.
stuff at the top. You know, you have to consider that and assume that the container is going to be sailing on the vessel. It's going to go through rough water. So it's
Yeah.
you have to make sure everything is sits, using
Yeah.
straps, using 2x4s. But I provide pictures, and I'm always on the phone when they have questions.
And what
So
about weight? I'm just thinking if you put a car and stuff like there or whatever, is there a weight restrictions that they're supposed to fit?
there are, but you will never exceed them.
Gotcha.
It is over 20,000 kilograms per 40 footer. It can go up to 27,000 kilos. So
And a standard car, I don't know how much, like what, 6,000?
1,600, no, no,
Oh,
1,600 kilograms is
oh,
like
okay.
3,500 pounds,
Okay.
mid-size SUV,
These
4,000.
containers, would they fit any size car, or if there's a bigger car, you have to figure it a different way? Like if
No,
it's a
bigger
Jeep or
cars. The
something or
biggest, no, they're built, yes, they will never exceed 235 centimeters in terms of the width. So you
Okay,
will always, I mean, we had projects when we shipped special cars like emergencies, and they would
gotcha.
have to go the whole different
That's a
way.
big
They would,
container. Wow.
well, emergency will not fit into container. That's the thing. They would normally be shipped on emergency, like ambulances, emergency vehicles. They
Okay,
would ship on called ro-ro vessels, roll off, roll on
okay,
vessels. So it's just like multi-level parking, huge boat.
okay.
Uh, yeah, for
Okay,
oversized
so they
vehicles.
called you up, you settled on an idea, you drop off the container on their driveway for 2 to 3 hours or whatever the time window is. They get their friends and their neighbors. They promise them pizza and beer at the end. They fill the container, put the cushions. Everybody's worried about the china, so they figure out how to do that. They ask where the dog is. Did we put him in the container? Oh no, there's the dog. We're fine. They call you up, you close it, you seal it, you pick it up, and it's off to the port. What's next?
So next we work on the documentation. We create all documents. We do the customs clearance in-house. So we have to export custom clear it. Right. For that, we will ask normally two pieces of ID of the person. So there should be one person which is going to be shown or mentioned on the bill of lading as an ultimate shipper. Um, then before persons started loading their stuff in the container, days before, we would ask for an itemized list of goods.
Okay.
Based on that itemized list of goods, I'll go through every single line and I'll say, okay, this cannot go, this can go. I have a good understanding what can be shipped, what cannot be shipped. And once that list is approved and ready, we would create a non-commercial invoice. I know it sounds a bit weird, but non-commercial invoice is a necessary document in order for the goods to be export cleared and then import customs cleared. It doesn't matter if it's, and many people are confused. Why should we create an invoice? Well, because that's the customs regulations every country has in place.
Hmm.
So a value would have to be assigned to those goods. And I'm not talking about every single book. Let's say we have two carton boxes of books. Well, 10, 20, 30 bucks. It has to be fair market value assigned. Um, like you have to be fair. You cannot ship a
How do you figure
bicycle.
that out? Like, do you like that sounds like a long process. I got like my Harry Potter books from the 1990s, and I think they're worth $100, but like, how do you figure that out?
Well, yeah, you don't assign a value just to one book. We go by, you gonna pack everything up in smaller item in boxes, right? So you
Okay.
books, $20.
Uh-huh.
Um, a table, 25. It's a fair market value. I know you don't have to Google, you don't have to do extensive research. It's something the
Do
first
you
you
think
have to
like this? Like, oh, I'm gonna have a estate sale and I'll put this on this dining table. I think I can sell it for $100 or something like that. Is that what you think?
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And then you will have at the end you will have a total amount, which five, 10,000. Doesn't
Right.
really matter. When you move for you're gonna change the country of your residence, you are not paying taxes and duties on personal belongings.
Okay.
If
There's so
you if
there's
you
not an
own
upper
them
limit
in
of
Canada or if you own them in Canada for more than 6 months.
gotcha. Okay. And I mean, and I've shipped something overseas by the post office, and they usually ask me what's the value of the goods inside the
Right.
box, right? And so I think that's something normal. Now, can you give us an example of, you said there might be things that you can't ship, like what would that be? Plants, maybe?
Well, plants, one of those things. But often there's this one time was a person moving from Canada to China, and they had like swords. And
Uh-huh.
these things there, although they are like decorations, right? They were just hanging on
Right.
the wall. But it's something that might trigger the
Yes.
customs officer, to open your container, to go through all
Got
your
it.
stuff
You
and
don't
to make
want them
sure.
to open the container because I've got a machete I brought once from Dominican Republic back in the day, right? As a tourist thing. I don't know
Yep.
how I got it into Canada, but basically they let me in with it.
So
And
you might be lucky, might not. Again,
yeah,
customs like in Canada, CBSA is super loyal, right?
yeah,
They're just so good to deal with.
yeah.
With some other countries, they
Yeah.
can be very tough
So
and they can
it's not
question.
that you can't put it in there, but because you've got the itemized list on there, some custom officer in the country of destination might say, "Oh, swords. Let's check that out before we
Yeah.
release it," right?
The
Okay.
only reason you don't want them to go through your stuff to pull your container for examination is, and it's applicable for every single country. You as a consignee, as a shipper, you're gonna be paying for that inspection. So if it takes them 5 hours to unload all your stuff, you're gonna pay for that. If your
And
container gets pulled for customs inspection, customs will not really, well, ocean carrier will not release the container to you unless this examination is paid.
and not
So
only that, they got to put it back together like Humpty Dumpty. And you're probably thinking, did they put my stuff the way I want it?
you know what? Normally they do a good job, but they take their time, and you're gonna be
Yeah,
paying for this time they spend.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
I make sure I go through the list, and I make sure nothing's gonna trigger. And also, you don't want to put something which is not mentioned on the list. So I also try to explain every time. So whatever you ship has to be on the list. Don't take chances.
Wow.
You don't have those. You don't want to have those surprises because you will end up paying for them.
So it's interesting how you say that because you know how I asked earlier, how do people decide? This creation of this list might all automatically say, well, do we really want to have this on the list or not, right?
Good point.
Yeah.
That's a good
Wow.
point.
So do they do this all by themselves or do they have other services that can like a downsizing X or concierge? Like they just go on their laptop and start writing a list, dining table.
Always,
Okay.
always. There's no way around. Never
Gotcha.
happened. We moved stuff for high rank officials, and I talked to them, and they had to deal with the
Okay.
list.
Here's a question. Knowing this now, I'm thinking you need a few months to plan for this because unless you're like super like you've already left your job, you're not working, and you can spend the time in a couple of weeks to go through your house, this is a big project. Like,
Serge, yes and no. Really, really, because let's say you decided to spend 2, 3 hours every day just packing your stuff.
yeah,
That's the way you decided to go. And what you do really is you just have this sheet of paper when you will just itemize. And you know what? It's not a problem if you put 5 pair of shoes, but you only mentioned four. Not a big deal. It's not high value item.
yeah.
It's not going to cause issues. We're talking about issues when you ship high value product like um, motorcycles and you misdeclared because you said, well, this is a different type or something like that. Something that might potentially raise a question about taxations and taxations at in countries of destinations. They're very strict when it comes to vehicles, shipping vehicles.
And you can help with that as well, right? So if
Yeah.
you have information about that, right?
So yes, so I'll explain normally how it works. Very often customers will ask, "Hey, can you do door to door?" And I say, "Yeah, of course we can do that." But what we do is we arrange everything, we ship your container up to the port in Valencia or Malaga or any other ports. And then you will have to deal directly with my agent because you want to be with people dealing with your stuff in the same time zone. You want to be with them on the phone because they will have questions. You don't want to go through us. We tried both options. Going through us in Canada, then communicating to our agent
Yeah,
is never a good option.
makes
Always
sense.
causing delays. And when container arrives, you don't want to have any delays because everything's time sensitive. You have to pick up your containers within 4 or 5 days. Otherwise, steamship line is gonna be charging detention demurrage charges, and those are very hefty.
Okay. And these agents all speak English? I know it's a silly question, but I need to ask
Yeah.
because,
So specifically in Spain, we have this agent we've been dealing now for 9 years, and they're very good. They're a very well-known
okay,
freight forwarder, and they're very good with shipping and
okay,
assisting with clearing, delivering household goods in
gotcha.
Spain.
So I'm glad you're clarifying that. So it's an agent you work with. It's not going to be a different agent all the time.
No, no,
For
no. In
example,
Spain, no, no. It's in every country, and we right now have close to 35 agents in different countries. But it's
right?
normally one agent that we've been dealing and who was assigned by us in this specific country.
Gotcha. So in Spain, the port of Malaga, if it's in the south, any other ports in Spain that you ship to, or is it only Malaga?
No, it's Valencia,
Gotcha.
Malaga. We just recently shipped. Let me see.
So you find out where the best solution logistically is for end to end, door to door, and you do the paperwork for that, right?
So yeah, so they normally would say, hey, we have to ship to this and this location in Spain, and then I would pick whatever closest port in
Hmm.
Spain, and we would discuss that option, shipping to that port, and then dispatching a truck to pick up their container to that port, and then travel for
Okay.
200-300. But normally people who move, they want to stay close to the seashore.
Yes, that's true. We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, this is really eye-opening and really good. I mean, in my idea, I'm thinking cargo. I got to go down to the docks, talk to someone there.
Yeah.
Like this is how little I know about it. So
Yeah, and that's
yeah,
again a good point, Serge, because people will ask those questions. Once container arrive, don't worry, we'll go to the port and pick up our stuff. No, you won't have access. The container is going to be offloaded off the vessel, and it's going to sit and wait for the truck at the
yeah. So they're thinking they're
container
going to
yard.
go with the moving van to the port, open the thing, put it in the
No,
moving van, and okay,
no, your container is somewhere at the top of the um, pile of
somewhere
containers, which
in
can be
that
only
Lego
handled
pile.
by a crane.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to make sure we're going logistically through it. So you picked up the container, you've done the paperwork, either before or after you've got the itemized list. What's next?
So then we submit export serves export filing to CBSA. Then they provide this number. We mention that number on the bill of lading. Container departs, is ready to depart. After that, we submit the shipping instructions to the steamship line, advising who is the shipper, who's the consignee. And normally consignee is going to be the same person or spouse, but normally it's the same person who's mentioned on the bill of lading, the shipper and the consignee. Then we would provide a tracking link for the vessel so that the person can check and see online what's the status, where the container. It's not rare, it's very common that vessels they get delayed in transit very often. It can be 2, 3, 4, 5 days delays depending. Sometimes they arrive and the port is not accommodating because there's few other vessels that have been waiting for a couple of days. So this is not uncommon, can get delayed. Important to know that in order to get your stuff customs clear duty free, you should be receiving it within 3 months after the person arrived in Spain. I mean, we had cases when they shipped their stuff out of Canada and received it 6, 7, 8 months after they landed for the first time. Um, they were able to get this duty-free status for their goods, but it just extra steps they had to take.
Hmm. Okay.
Then container arrives. Our agent would be involved. They would receive so-called notification from the local office of the ocean carrier, the vessel operator, the container arriving. It's official document saying the vessel is scheduled to arrive this day. You have 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the steamship line. 5 days we have for getting the container out of that port. Then my agent would talk to that person, explain the whole customs clearance process and steps to be taken. and then they would schedule the pickup and delivery of the container. So for Europe, very often that container on the chassis on the chassis of the truck cannot, because of the streets are so narrow. It happens, very often. Just truck cannot enter that area.
Mm.
So we would have to go through the warehouse. We would have to deliver the container to the closest warehouse where our agent would um, decide on, and then with a smaller van or smaller straight truck with the liftgate equipment, they would just shuttle, 4 or 5 times whatever
Yeah,
amount is required, just to go and deliver the stuff with the smaller portions to the final
that makes
destination.
sense. Yeah. So I guess it would be really helpful for you as the logistical company to know as much as possible about their destination. If they already own a property, where's that address? Maybe they don't own a property yet. They're just thinking about going and checking out a few properties. But the more information that you have, the better your quote can be, I guess, because these
More
are things I hadn't
accurate.
even thought about. You're right. The
Yeah.
narrow streets in Europe, you can't. Well, I've seen some tour buses do some pretty big moves there, but
Well, 40-footer sitting on the chassis with the truck itself, it's a
yeah,
long, long train. So
yeah,
it happens to me in the past. So again, I talked to the person, and often they don't know the final shed. They said,
yeah,
well, it's gonna be this city, but we haven't purchased real estate yet. So then
yeah,
I just make them aware that, look, if we have to go through warehouse, that it's gonna cost extra, this much
yeah,
extra, or direct delivery of the container.
yeah. That's amazing. Okay. Um, so I guess I had a question and I just
So
went out of my
often people
brain.
search people asking about shipping cars.
Yes, please tell me about that.
Um, so there are two ways to ship car out of Canada. Well, to load in the container, because that's the biggest challenge, right? So, well, what should we do? Um, Option number one, if they load everything by themselves and they are comfortable enough to load their car inside the container, I offer that option because again, this is the least expensive. What we do, we normally would call the tow truck when container arrives. The car gets loaded on the tow truck and then back to back to the to open container. They just dry off the tow truck to the container. I send the pictures how car has to be braced using the straps. Container
Okay.
floor has hooks every 150 centimeters on the floor and ceiling.
So I want to clarify because I got confused there. If they want to move a car, they need the tow truck to come to move it on, or they can drive it up themselves.
Well, they can't. Well, I've mentioned that at the beginning, that a sea container cannot be put on the ground. Well,
Right.
technically,
They're on a
it
chassis,
can. It's on the
so they don't have
chassis.
like a ramp or how, like,
No, no, there's no ramps available. Never.
okay. So a tow truck that can lift the car up has to be there, correct?
The tow truck has to be there.
Gotcha.
It's a regular procedure. The car would drive on the tow truck, and then tow
Yeah.
truck makes it back to back with the container, and just cars gets.
Okay, so I want to clarify because I've had that kind of tow truck. In my mind, a lot of people think tow truck is just the one lift up on the two wheels, but this is a special tow truck that you has a ramp
Has a
that you
ramp, a
drive up.
platform. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, it's a platform tow
not a
truck,
dolly, not a dolly,
not a
not the
dolly tow
flatbed.
truck.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're right.
got it.
Good point.
No, I mean, I hope that you don't mind. I'm asking questions that I would ask because I've never done this, and I'm
No, no,
sure if I
for
have these
sure.
questions, a lot of people would have the same kind of questions.
And I feel wonderful. It's like I'm explaining to a person who is deciding right now on their move to
I may
overseas
be
their
using your
stuff.
services. I don't know. I don't plan, you know what? I love to drive in Europe, especially stick shift, but I don't plan to bring my car. I just plan to rent a car when I need one and walk everywhere.
Well, again, some people I've seen shipping old cars that then they have um, some issues getting registered in Europe, right?
Yeah,
Because when you move your household goods, you get exemption from paying taxes and duties. Now, for cars, it's a different regulation. You have
Right.
to be a EU citizen living in Canada for over a year, and you should be owner of that vehicle for more than 6 months to be
Okay.
eligible for tax and duty free.
Right.
Now, if you're not,
Otherwise, you could be
it's
exporting cars, right? You don't know.
what's that?
Otherwise, you could be an exporter of vehicles and having to pay the duties, right?
Well, the and duties are pretty heavy. It's
Yeah.
10% of duty and 21% VAT, and then close to 15%
Is
registration based on CO2 emissions of your vehicle. So it
would
can.
would most cars be qualified to go there? Like, I mean, I heard these stories that sometimes you have to modify your cars or something like that. But would most cars be okay if they're within a certain age? Or
So the rule number one, you have to understand that cars in Europe are built on based on European regulations, which are slightly different from the one we have in North America. So you would have to go some minor modifications of those vehicles, like blinkers. They have different colors, the turn signals,
okay, that
this stuff,
makes sense.
and you can custom clear it, but then to get it, and you will have a temporary license plate, but you will not be able to get it permanently registered if those modifications are not done.
Okay, so I'm not going to do the modifications in Canada because they may not know what to do, but I'm custom clearing it to bring my car to Europe.
Hmm.
Once I'm in Europe, let's say Spain as an example, I
Hmm.
get a temporary license to get the car to the mechanic where they will actually modify it based on the regulations there. Is that the steps?
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly. So you have to
gotcha.
you go through inspection. Then if your car pass that inspection, and very often, honestly saying, without modifications, we had cases when they just got accepted, and they're like, okay, well, they know
Yeah,
better, I guess. But
that's pretty good. So, and you guys take care of the custom, like
yeah,
your price, whether it's the lower or the higher, you'll itemize, this is what we take care of. And if it's like the whole like Cadillac package, since we're on the theme of cars, they get everything. Pickup, uh, packing and everything, delivery. But if they want to do it part of themselves, then it's a lower price. But in terms of the paperwork and the customs, you take care of all that,
we
right?
take care of all of that for sure.
Okay.
That is
Okay.
something, you can be involved. You can go as a private individual
You
to
need
the
an
food
agent.
supply and get your container released. It has to
Yeah.
be done by a licensed freight forwarding company, either its
Okay.
destination or its origin.
Now, I'm in the business of financial planning, and this is going to be maybe a morbid question, maybe not. I want to know if you've come across this because I think about risk for my clients all the time. You said one person has to give their ID and be that one person that's the, authority or they're signing for the container kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did you say that? Okay. I don't know why I thought about this. I just thought some of my clients are older. What if that person passes away while the thing is being shipped? Have you ever come across like now the spouse has to pick it up, but you don't have their IDs? Is that something that could like what happened?
So this has never happened before, but I think we had this couple. They were, I would say, close to 80, 85 years old.
Yeah.
And it has occurred to me at a later stage of the shipment, the reason why they mentioned they wanted to put husband and his wife names, both names on the BL. And I was like, why would they? Well, okay, maybe because of their age
So
or
you can
some
do
other
that
reason.
then, right? You can put
You can do. It's not as common, but we can do that. We can do that. It's not a problem.
if they wanted to, could they assign someone else like as their agent if they wanted to pay that extra cost or no?
You don't want to assign your agent or somebody else to be specifically consignee, because then you will have issues clearing your goods without
Okay.
paying duties and taxes. So customs
Okay.
at destination would consider as a commercial ship. You're shipping stuff, used stuff.
Yeah.
with a certain value to somebody else, they will have to pay VAT and all the duties.
Okay. All right. All right. Good. So sorry about that. This is something that
No,
I
no, no.
think about.
It's a good question. And the worst case scenario, if something like that happens, we have access to documentation. We can submit to the steamship line saying, hey, we have to legally, officially change the shipper or the consignee on the bill of lading
Right.
of this container. So it is possible to. It called the process called BL change.
Okay.
So there is a way to do that.
Okay. Awesome. Wow. I can't believe how the time has flown. This has been a topic that's been really interesting. I'll keep it to this like format. Few last questions and we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
What's the fastest you've seen this happen from door to door? How many, how much time?
Well, it depends on destination. Are we talking about Spain?
Let's pick Spain since a lot of viewers are thinking about Spain, although we do have others thinking about Romania, maybe Costa Rica, different things like that.
So Spain, we do have option to ship with one of the carriers called Hapag-Lloyd that provide direct service. So it means there's no ports in transit. It's direct Montreal to I think Valencia is would be direct port, and then it goes to other ports up the coast. So it is 16 days on the water. If we ship from Toronto, I think the fastest one was tw around 22 days door to door.
Wow, that's
22 days.
impressive. Probably you don't want to guarantee that because, like we said, you can't control the weather, and there are other ports of call, right?
Well, I always, again, that's something I always discuss. We can go with Hapag-Lloyd, we can go with CMA or MSC steamship line at a slightly longer transit time, but better rate. So all these options I always go through with the customer and they always make their decision. But normally there's no rush. Nobody's rushing.
Okay,
Always, yeah.
awesome.
So there's one more thing. I don't know if you wanted to add. People talk about insuring their goods. So, Serge, another thing that people ask about almost every time is can we insure their cargo? Who is liable for their cargo? Well, I would like to mention that ocean carriers, they specifically mention in their terms of in terms um, of an agreement we
Conditions.
sign and you sign with us, they're not liable for the goods they ship on the board of their vessel. Whatever happens,
Yeah.
you know, nobody's gonna pay you out whatever the cost of your
Yeah, if one
cargo
of your
is.
boxes falls on your windshield of your car and breaks it, it's not their fault.
No, no.
Right.
Or if the ship goes down, the whole container, they don't pay you for this goods. So there's an option available to insure your cargo for about again depending on the itemized list of goods, but we're talking about from 1% to 1.25 percent of the total value of your goods based on the itemized list of goods.
Okay.
So again, it's available. It's not mandatory. It's an option
But do
you
you
can
guys
take.
offer that or you offer it through a
We
third
offer
party?
that. Yeah, we offer
Okay.
that.
Okay. So your itemized list is very important there. You make your itemized list, you give it a fair market value, you agree on that, and then whatever that value is, 1 to 1.25% of that value.
That's right.
Okay. That's good to know. Awesome. All right. I'm looking at your website. I'm going to bring it up here for a second. It's
Sure.
PrimeLeague Intermodal Logistics. Is that right?
It is.
I hope I got the right one.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here. So what's the best way people can get in touch with you? I got it up here on the screen here. So if they were to come here to this website, where do they go?
Yeah, well,
Contact
there's a phone number. If
oh,
you at the
right
top, yeah,
here.
that's the one. Or you just write to info@primeleague.ca. This is one of the emails I check on a daily basis. Every day in the morning, I spend, close to 40 minutes, just up to an hour, just going through emails being sent to this info or just contact form.
Yeah. I love this. You got here Ukraine, Poland, Germany, Italy, France, Benelux, and Romania, top 7 destination. I love
Mhm.
it. Hey, Yuri, it's been a pleasure talking with you. This is really great, eye-opening. Thank you for your time and safe sailing, safe
Thank
seas.
you. I wish you good luck with your YouTube channel. I think this is going to be very beneficial. As I said, we see lots of families are moving overseas from Canada, from US, but specifically from Canada. So I hope it's going to be beneficial for your subscribers, and I hope you have them a lot, thousands of subscribers on your
Thank
channel.
you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for
Have a
inviting
good
me.
day.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye.
Awesome.